break, we're going right into this update on the Giuliani probe. Feds scouring his phones. They, of course, raided his apartment. And he's still taking on new legal risk today. He was back out on his radio show quoting none other than Richard Nixon.
I'm not a crook. And they're framing me because, very simple reason. I got the goods on Joe Biden. I'm the guy, unfortunately, who individually exposed Joe Biden. First with regard to his crookedness in Ukraine, and then with regard to the hard drive that shows that he's been a criminal for 30 years and that his son's been feeding him the money for 30 years.
Rudy Giuliani knows his way around Republican politics and history. He's got to know what happened to Richard Nixon in the years after he claimed he was not a crook. Giuliani is under legal pressure. He's got an evidence-free attack here that he's accusing the feds of committing a new crime, of framing him. Of course, he hasn't substantiated that in any way. And it seems like the pressure may be getting to him as he continues to talk on the radio and other airwaves. And I'm joined now, as promised, Neil Katyal, former acting U.S. Solicitor General. Neil, I always try to keep it real with viewers. I try to explain, if we're several days into a story, why are we here again? And sometimes there's big new developments, and sometimes there's just the way people act. And Mr. Giuliani can't stop talking. What I just played is brand new. And so he's feeding the story, and he seems to be feeding a narrative legally where he wants to say that his outside activities against the Bidens, and he has every right to oppose Joe Biden's election, but his outside activities somehow made him a target that otherwise he wouldn't be in this trouble. Your response both to the Nixon claim, which is just wow, and that type of defense he's offering.
Yeah, so here's why it's important, Ari, for our viewers. First, it says a lot about Rudy and Rudy's trajectory. I mean, this is a guy who's gone from being the top prosecutor in New York to being treated as a common criminal and investigated by the very office he used to run. And his defense is, I'm not a crook, quoting Nixon. That's not particularly good. The FBI has seized 10 of his devices pursuant to a warrant, pursuant to a federal judge's order, and the judge had to certify that probable cause existed to believe a crime had been committed. So that's number one. And look, based on the fact that Giuliani blurted out on national TV that Trump was paying off Stormy Daniels, I'm pretty sure prosecutors would be happy with any one of the 10 devices, let alone all 10. So that's number one. What does it say about Rudy? But the second and more, I think, interesting question is, what does this say about the Trump investigation? Because, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are wondering, like, Trump looks like he might get away with some Stormy Daniels stuff, with other financial improprieties, with January 6th, with what happened in Georgia in terms of election pressure, and Ukraine as well. And here now you've got the government investigators with a close confidant of the president, who in potentially very serious crimes that Rudy Giuliani has committed. And Rudy isn't exactly the most loyal person. So I think if you're Donald Trump, you're worried right now about what Giuliani knows and what he's going to say in exchange for a deal.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. And whether Giuliani is using the airwaves, and he has his regular radio show, of course, he can discuss what he wants on it, whether he's using that and other interviews to signal something to Donald Trump, and they remain fighting over allegedly legal fees and other things, is also a possibility. We've certainly seen other people in the Trump orbit do that. It apparently works better than calling him directly, so we've been told. With that in mind, though, Giuliani wasn't making, I would say, great linear sense in this next passage I want to play. Again, this is airing on MSNBC for the first time. It's brand new from the radio show. As Giuliani discussed, is how the feds want to get him, and a lot of different things come up. See if you can follow this, Neil.
Are we as stupid people? Can you figure why would the Chinese Communist government invest over $1 billion in an investment fund with Whitey Bulger's nephew, Hunter Biden, and John Kerry's stepson? Does it really take that much to figure it out? And can you now figure out why they're trying to put me in jail? Because I'm the only one willing to say that.
Neil?
Well, I don't have a degree in Rudyese or whatever that language is. I can't make too much heads or tails of it, but I can tell you one thing about that, Ari. If I'm Donald Trump, the last thing I want Giuliani to mention is the name Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger was an FBI informant who turned on the mob. That mention can't be good comfort for Trump right now. And Giuliani mentioned it, I think, because he's saying Hunter Biden worked at a firm with Bulger's nephew or something like that. And if I'm Rudy Giuliani, the last game I want to be playing right now is guilt by association, since Rudy's encountered more criminals in the last 4 years than I think he has in his entire prosecutorial career. But I think all of this, Ari, is getting bundled into this whole question. Giuliani, and I think this is why he's doing these interviews on TV and radio, is he's trying to get Donald Trump to pay his legal bills. And, count me a skeptic. With all due deference to America's mayor here, Donald Trump doesn't pay his own legal bills. You think he's really going to pay someone else's?
Right.
As they say, crime doesn't pay, and apparently neither do criminals. And given the quality of Rudy's work product, from, 4 Seasons landscaping to what he did with Stormy Daniels to his election filings over the fall in court, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump actually releases a statement demanding payment from Giuliani.
Well, this is a fair point, and this isn't even Supreme Court caught y'all. This is just common sense caught y'all, which is if you watch someone, dine and dash and skip out on their own dinner bill a bunch of times, that's not the person that's going to go take you out for dinner and actually pay the bill. I think that's fair. We'll call that common sense, y'all. Before I lose you, there's one other wrinkle here that I wanted to raise about the case. We've got this information that since October 19, the feds have been looking at whatever Giuliani was trying to do on behalf of these potentially foreign nationals or foreign governments. And the Daily Beast reports that this ex-Ukrainian official needed a visa. Now, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci says from visas or beyond, he sees Giuliani flipping.
You think Rudy Giuliani will turn on Trump?
100%. Yeah. My friend Michael Cohen said that he would take a bullet for the president.
Right.
But, when push came to shove and it was about his family, he's got a priority to that. And I think the mayor has said it. Look, I've got insurance.
It is true the mayor made that reference to insurance and then sort of walked it back. Everything in that landscape sometimes is a joke. But, Neil, I'm curious what you think specifically of the reporting on the visa, because there are those, again, we've talked about a lot that's bad for Giuliani. There are those who say that if the case turns on or is primarily about a citizen's need for a visa, that may somehow provide a legal help or defense for him if he's not working directly on behalf of, for example, the government of Ukraine writ large.
Yeah, so far I haven't seen the defense, I think, story, and I don't think what Rudy has said is much of a defense. There's nothing wrong if you're a U.S. citizen with working for a foreign government. You just have to disclose it, and that's an important thing. That's part of a very important law that's enacted to prevent people, basically foreign influence in our government. And the idea that, this guy who wanted the visa, Shokin, who was the prosecutor, is acting independently of the government and so on, I guess that might be possible. But at least according to the reporting, it sounded like there was more governmental Ukrainian government interest in this official visiting the United States. It wasn't just, the guy coming to bring his kids to Disney or something like that. And so, I think that there is a real concern here. It looks like Giuliani was so eager to please this guy, Shokin, because, well, frankly, he was widely viewed as an effective advocate for a corrupt regime. And so that's why the ambassador our U.S. ambassador, Yovanovitch, tried to prevent that visa. And unfortunately, she was fired. All part of a really nefarious thing, which the feds will investigate and get to the bottom of now.
Well, and as you explained, a visa could sound small if it's a work visa, marriage visa over here, or it could be something very big if, as you say, there's a whole country behind it that's got other foreign policy interests with the U.S. So visa as a term might be misleading here. Of course, if there are charges, that's the kind of thing I would expect to be litigated out. Neil Katyal, always great to have you here at the top of our broadcast. And I'll remind everyone, you can go to msnbc.com/opening arguments for this and other segments with our solicitor friend. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.